and musicians, that is certainly an apt choice for today. It is tradition for the graduating students to select a faculty speaker. This time, Mr. Jason Brough has been bestowed this honour. Jason is from the United Kingdom, and he has taught in his home country, in Paris, France, in Vancouver, Canada, and in Singapore. He joined OFS in 2009 to teach science, in particular physics, and theory of knowledge. His commitment to his students' learning, the way he always engages and challenges them to think, his sense of humour, which his students eventually get, have made him a natural choice for today's address. It is testimony to that student respect that today this teacher is providing the remarks to the graduating class. Mr. Jason Brough.
Thank you very much. Directors, honoured guests, faculty, and of course, class of 2017. It is with an enormous sense of pride that I stand here today to deliver this address. Over my teaching career, I have consistently found overseas family school students to be some of the most positive, resilient, and humorous that I have ever had the pleasure to encounter. You have an irrepressible spirit of optimism, rather like my own. Your sense of togetherness and the degree of support for each other I have witnessed continues to make my heart swell with pride, and I mean that sincerely to every single one of you. My school days were not always filled with such positive emotions, and do not conjure up for me as many happy memories as I'm sure yours will for you. It is my hope, though, that by reflecting on my experience, it may allow me to impart to you a few last words of wisdom from what some have termed the Broughian condition. In truth, I do not believe I was ever supposed to be a teacher, let alone be standing here talking to you today. And if it wasn't for a few supportive words, a second chance or two, and my own boundless sense of dissatisfaction, I probably wouldn't be. My parents had left education by the age of 15. My mother to train as a seamstress, and my father as a printer. My early years had revolved around toy cars, climbing whatever object I could find to climb, and running around in my underwear pretending to be Tarzan. When I first attended school at the age of 5, formal learning was a brand new experience for me. I remember what must have been one of my first days. The class were all given a blue piece of card with their first name written on it, in big letters. A new pencil, and an exercise book. We were told to copy out our names. I remember looking at my name card and my pencil like they were alien artifacts. I'd never attempted to communicate by writing before. As I tried to control my pencil, I was aware of children moving around me. I did not understand at the time, but all the children that could write their first name, or were well on the way to doing so, were repositioned on the other side of the room. While those that could not were moved to the side I was on. I don't remember having much interaction with my teacher after this. Myself and a few others were basically left to our own devices and spent a lot of time learning to write our own name. While the other side of the room were encouraged to make rapid progress on more advanced tasks. It was as if after my first day in education, my entire future prospects had already been determined. By the age of 8, with a different teacher, I remember being positioned on orange table in a classroom organised to replicate the colours of a partial rainbow, with the blue end of the spectrum reserved for the most able and the red end for the most least. I was completing a task that was supposed to be teaching me which way round to write a B and a D. The fact is, I completed all elements of this task in about 30 seconds. And I was now wondering why I kept having to do the same task over and over, whilst the teacher just worked with the green and blue tables. With a growing sense of humiliation and resentment, it was around this time I realised if I were to make any progress in closing the achievement gap between myself and the students at the top of the class, I would probably have to do it myself. I began to read as many books as the library would allow me to check out at one time. My reading skills improved exponentially. I was inspired by mathematics and science and project work, and a few teachers that decided to try and teach the whole class rather than the few. By the time I headed to high school, through sheer grit and determination, I had managed to reach the lofty heights of average. My high school, though, was not a pleasant place to be. It was more like the Hunger Games than a seat of learning. I did what I could and made some progress, but my mother often joked that every school report I ever received said nothing other than average. Not for want of trying, it seems, the poor start I had in education may have left too big a gap to fully catch up. I ended up leaving school at the age of 16, with qualifications not quite good enough to get me onto A-level courses. Unlike overseas family school, the welcoming hand of open access education was never extended to me. At my school, the potential you had demonstrated by the age of 16 was judged to be the entire sum of your potential. And that, quite possibly, should have been all the education I received. I began working, I made new friends, and I moved around a little. Until, at the age of 19, the simplest of interactions occurred that put me on a path that caused such a radical change in my perception of myself that it ultimately led me here today. Two of the new friends I'd made, both of whom had done significantly better than I at school, said something that quite possibly no one had ever said to me before. At the time, I had a job stacking supermarket shelves and a night shift. Independently of each other, and in conversation, they told me, "Jason, you're intelligent. You should be accomplishing more than this with your life." And those simple words of encouragement were all, in the end, it took. The simple recognition of what I thought to be true from an outside observer gave me the confidence to believe that perhaps I could accomplish more. Maybe I could have a second chance. From this fortuitous interaction, those few encouraging words and my sense of dissatisfaction combined together in my mind, and I started to use them as a positive motivational force. I stopped accepting the way my world was, and I looked for a way to change it. So, at the age of 21, the minimum age for enrolment, I embarked on a one-year mature student A-level program, studying social and economic history and sociology. This time was, for me, the happiest of all my academic experiences. I felt a whole new world had opened up. My lecturers brought their subjects to life, and I absolutely loved studying history. In the end, I did well enough on my exams to earn a place at the prestigious University of Warwick, studying 20th century history. Everything had worked out. Now was definitely not the time to have second thoughts and reassess my options. So, in a manner typical of the Broughian condition, I began to have second thoughts and reassess my options. I looked around me and found an alternative path in the form of a pre-university course in applied physics and engineering. A passing grade in which would allow me to continue my studies, however, at a somewhat less prestigious university than Warwick. Unsure of which direction to take, I sought the counsel of a wiser man, my father. By this time, my father had become quite convinced I would spend the rest of my life as a student if I wasn't careful. He therefore concluded that I should take the scientific route, as he felt it much more likely to result in gainful employment one day. His logic appeared sound enough, and I took his advice. It actually turns out that my father had also had an aptitude for science and mathematics when he was at school. I wonder sometimes how different his life may have been if he had had access to the same second chances that I have had. In his life, he had also become a teacher, and for a number of decades was a very well-respected karate instructor, which was always another good reason to do what Sensei Brough told me. You will be relieved to know I did pass my pre-university course, which eventually led me to earning an honours degree in applied physics, and subsequently into a career in teaching. I do reflect occasionally, though, on what might have happened if I hadn't taken that time to reassess. Would I be here with you today? Would I ever have met Mrs. Brough? And how thankful she must be that I did. Even after this, I felt I still had unfilled potential. Like I still had something to prove to myself. And so, in 2016, at the age of 46, I embarked on another academic journey. And I enrolled on a master's degree in natural sciences education at Colorado State University. And at long last, I am beginning to access that sense of satisfaction from believing I am fulfilling my potential. A feeling I truly hope you have all achieved far more quickly than I. And so, we arrive back to the here and now, and the class of 2017. At the first of what may be a number of graduation ceremonies. And whether you feel ready for the next step of your life journey, or you feel it's all gone by a little bit too quick, you should know this. that it is as close to an absolute truth as a TOK teacher is allowed to say, that this is your time. Your time to begin exploring the Word as an adult. Your time to face the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune on your own terms. Your time to embrace opportunity and create opportunity. And your time to live a life that in its way contributes to making the whole world a better place. And as for the Broughian condition, and what might be learned to help you as you enter your brave new world? Well, I believe there are 3 things we can take away with us today. The first is this: whether the summer finds you exceeding, realizing, or yet to meet your expectations, there will always be another chance for you. Secondly, please remember, it is never too late for you to reassess your options. And finally, as I will hopefully prove to every single one of you in 2020, you're never too old to graduate. And here, my friends, I must end. It has been an absolute honour to be able to address you all today and witness the love and support of your friends, family and peers. You have been an incredible group, and I wish you all the luck in the world for your future. Congratulations, class of 2017. Now go out and make history. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. Students who have taught and those who never had that privilege will remember your words. They will have to learn just like you had to and make their way in the world in spite of many setbacks.